Today's video is jump-starting our KIP Tips series, where we offer educational tips, tricks, and strategies to teachers, parents, and students to help make learning more engaging and effective. Today's video jumpstarts our teacher edition of KIP Tips. Before we get started, I'm going to ask that you please like, share, and comment on this video. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. This is the time of year where teachers are beginning to get ready to go back into the classroom. I remember as a former public school special education teacher, getting ready to get my room prepared for the new school year. As I sat at my desk and looked around my room, I remember asking myself, do I want to keep my classroom arrangement the same as in previous years? Or do I want to switch it up a little bit? And I can tell you that what I typically did was a combination of the two. There were some things that I felt helped me throughout the year to make learning more engaging and also helped my students focus better. And then there were some things that I felt like needed a little bit of tweaking based on what my roster looked like for the current year. And so today, what I'd like to do is to share with you some tips that could help you to make this school year a little bit more productive. Did you know that how you set up your classroom can actually help to curb or minimize distracting behavior? It's true. As a former emotional behavior learning disorder teacher, I can tell you that there were several things that I did in advance to help curb some of those distracting behaviors in my classroom. And what I'd like to do today is to share them with you. KIP tip number 1, create a student resource center. What is that? Actually, it's really simple. It's a little area in your classroom. It could be a desk, it could be a table, where you place commonly asked for items like pencils, erasers, glue sticks, notebook paper, and so forth. And what that does is it helps to eliminate unnecessary questions during your instruction. I can't tell you how many times it would frustrate me to be in the middle of a lesson and then ask my students, do you have any questions? Of course, I'm asking that to make sure that they understood what I presented. And when that student raised their hand, they would say, can I borrow a pencil? Do you have a highlighter? What does that have to do with the lesson at hand? Nothing. And so what I did was I decided to create this resource center so students knew that all they needed to do was to just go over to that table and grab what they need in order to finish whatever lesson, whatever activity, whatever assignment that I had given them. It also helps with disturbing their classmate and asking them for those items. Just having it available can help to eliminate that potential distracting behavior. And if you would like to keep track of who is asking for what, you can create a checklist or a checkout sheet rather, where students can sign their name, they can put the date, and then they can check off exactly what it is that they borrowed. Of course, they have to understand that they need to put it back, but it helps you to keep track of who's borrowing what and what is the most commonly used item from that center. KIP tip number 2, display informational signage. I know some of these tips may seem like common knowledge, but you'll be amazed at how many teachers just don't think about it, or how many teachers, for whatever reason, don't actually use or apply these tips in their classrooms. Displaying informational signage is so important because it helps our students to know and understand what they need to know in order to be successful in the classroom. For example, if you are a content area teacher, it might be helpful to make sure that you display some of those common concepts that they may need to know as a resource on your walls. A schedule for high school and middle school students would also be beneficial, so students won't constantly ask you what time does class end or what time does the next class start. Having it displayed would help to minimize some of those questions. If you're a teacher that uses hand signals for students to use in order to request to go to the bathroom or to get a drink of water, you might want to have those signals displayed on your walls or on your board in your classroom. Classroom rules and/or consequences should also be displayed as well, so students know what the expectation is that you have for them. Again, these tips can help to curb some of those distracting behaviors, some of those disruptive behaviors throughout the year. And then finally, KIP tip number 3, arrange your furniture and supplies in a way to limit movement. I can tell you that one of my pet peeves is to have students just get up and walk in front of me as I'm teaching to go and throw trash away. So what I decided to do was I had 2 trash cans in my classroom. And so I placed one of them on my right side and I placed the other on the left side of the classroom. And so students sitting on either side of the room could go to that side of the room to throw their trash away. I did the same thing with hand sanitizer and Kleenex tissue. I had a set on either side of the classroom, so that way students on those sides could go to those areas for what they need. It helped to cut down on the movement in the classroom. I also arranged my desks in such a way where I could have the students work together collaboratively on assignments, or they could also work independently in certain areas. For my gen ed peers, because I was a special education teacher, I know that sometimes that may not be feasible due to the number of students in your classroom. Some suggestions that I've seen work in the past is to put those desks in clusters and then have material on each cluster, so that way students don't have to move much at all. You could have a bottle of hand sanitizer at each cluster, a box of tissue at each cluster, and maybe a few pencils in a pencil box along with erasers and glue sticks on each cluster of desks. So that way students aren't just jumping up randomly for something in the middle of a lesson. So these are just some KIP tips for you to think about as you set up your classroom. Go ahead and like and comment below whether or not you've used these tips in the past, how they work for you, or if you have any other suggestions and ideas for some of our other educators as they prepare to go back into their classrooms. Remember, knowledge is power, and I'll see you next video.